Book of Job, chapter 9. Then Job answered and said, I know of a truth that it is so. For how shall a mortal man be just before the Lord? For if he would enter into judgment with him, Elohim would not hearken to him, so that he should answer to one of his charges of 1,000. For he is wise in mind, and mighty, and great. Who has hardened himself against him, and endured? Who wears out the mountains, and men know it not? Who overturns them in anger? Who shakes the earth under heaven from its foundations, and its pillars totter? Who commands the sun, and it rises not, and he seals up the stars? Who alone has stretched out the heavens, and walks on the sea as on firm ground? Who makes Pleius, and Hesperus, and Arcturus, and the chambers of the south? Who does great and unsearchable things, glorious also, and excellent things, innumerable? If ever he should go beyond me, I shall not see him. If he should pass by me, neither thus have I known it. If he would take away, who shall turn him back? Or who shall say to him, What hast thou done? For if he has turned away his anger, the whales under heaven have stooped under him. O then, that he would hearken to me, or judge my cause. For though I be righteous, he will not hearken to me. I will entreat his judgment. And if I should call, and he should not hearken, I cannot believe that he has listened to my voice. Let him not crush me with a dark storm, but he has made by bruises many without cause. For he suffers me not to take breath, but he has filled me with bitterness. For indeed he is strong in power. Who then shall resist his judgment? For though I should seem righteous, my mouth will be profane. And though I should seem blameless, I shall be proved perverse. For even if I have sinned, I know it not in my soul, but my life is taken away. Wherefore I said, Wrath slays the great and mighty man. For the worthless die, but the righteous are laughed to scorn. For they are delivered into the hands of the unrighteous man. He covers their faces. He covers the faces of the judges of the earth. But if it be not he, who is it? But my life is swifter than a post. My days have fled away, and they knew it not. Or again, is there a trace of their path left by ships? Or is there one of the flying eagle as it seeks its prey? And if I should say, I will forget to speak, I will bow down my face and groan. I quake in all my limbs, for I know that thou wilt not leave me alone as innocent. But since I am ungodly, why have I not died? For if I should wash myself with snow, and purge myself with pure hands, thou hadst thoroughly plunged me in filth, and my garment has abhorred me. For thou art not man like me, with whom I could contend, that we might come together to judgment. Would that he, our mediator, were present, and a reprover, and one who should hear the cause between both. Let him remove his rod from me, and let not his fear terrify me. So shall I not be afraid, but I will speak, for I am not thus conscious of guilt. Shalom Aleichem, Assalamu Alaikum. Welcome to Job chapter 9. 35 verses in this chapter. We're looking at verse 3 first. There's an omission of "for if he would enter into judgment with him." Significant difference, possibly a big one in this verse. It says Elohim would not listen to him, versus if he, talking about the man, will contend with him, Elohim. Okay, so the Septuagint saying Elohim will not listen to the man if he's entering into judgment with him, versus if that man will contend with him. So there's no mention of Elohim listening to him in the Masoretic, or even a chance of that happening. And then it says here, so that he should answer to one of his charges of 1,000. Versus he, talking about man, cannot answer him one of 1,000 questions. Okay. Verse 4, and mighty, I should say, and great versus mighty in strength. Endured versus prospered. Okay, two opposite ends of the spectrum. One is enduring hardship versus prospering, being blessed, perhaps. Verse 5, wears out versus removes. Mountains in this verse could be a code for kingdoms, just like in the New Testament, the Beret Hadashah. Verse 6, foundations versus out of her place. So from the core of the earth versus moving the earth to another place altogether. Verse 8 is a big one. This is our first big difference, possibly huge difference, because it is a Messianic prophecy. It says here, talking about Adonai Hashem, who alone has stretched out the heavens and walks on the sea as on firm ground. Recall that Mashiach, Yeshua, did this. He walked not just on water, but on stormy seas, so violent waters. But he walked on them as if the water was firm ground. So this is possibly Messianic prophecy. What does it say in the Masoretic? It says, and treads upon the waves of the sea. So treading water means to swim in it, doesn't mean to walk on top of the water. Yet the implication is to walk. That's the implication here. Yet the Septuagint is emphatic, describing the sea as being firm ground. Simple enough, okay. Verse 9, different names for these constellations. Pleias versus Pleiades. Hesperus versus Orion or Orion. Verse 11, shall not see him versus I see not. So future versus present. But then again, I'm going to be repeating this often throughout this channel, is that the tense of the verb is not given in the Greek or the Hebrew, so it depends on the interpreter, the translator. Okay, verse 13. He has turned away versus Eloah or Elohim. I think Eloah is the Aramaic term for Elohim. Whales. So this can mean large, great fish or marine life under heaven versus proud helpers. Verse 14. Oh, then that he would hearken to me, versus how much less shall I answer to him? Or shall I answer him? Okay, or judge my cause. Or judge my cause, verse 14. Verses, and choose out my words to reason with him. Okay, so the focus is on Adonai and the Septuagint, that Hashem would listen, that he would judge my cause, versus the focus being on Job, saying, how much less shall Job answer him, and Job has to choose out his words to reason with him. Verse 15, significant difference. He will not hearken to me, versus yet would I not answer. Again, continuing this thread of the focus being on Elohim in the Septuagint versus the focus on Job in the Masoretic. Verse 16, the footnote reads, the Hebraic and Alexandrian both omit the word not. So they both omit not, hearken. If I should call and he should not hearken. So Job is saying, okay, I'm calling Adonai, but if he would not listen for whatever reason, I cannot believe that he has listened to my voice. So he's doubtful of this. The Masoretic reads this way, if I had called and he had answered me. So no, he's answering him in the Masoretic for whatever reason. Yet would I not believe that he had listened to my voice. So why would he answer? It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. Why would he answer something that he hasn't heard? If he's answering, it means he's heard you. That's evident to me. Okay. Oh, it says that in my note. Okay. Verse 17, let him not crush me, versus, for he breaks me. So no, he's not crushing him, or breaking him yet. He's saying, let him not, with a dark storm. There's a typo on this internet version. It should read, by has made by bruises, should be my bruises. He has made my bruises. Okay, so when I read this in the narration, I made a mistake. He has made my bruises many without cause. And it says bruises versus wounds. 19. Who then shall resist his judgment? Versus he is strong. And if I speak of judgment, who shall set me a time to plead? Okay, those are two different expressions. The resistance is futile if you're being judged by him, versus he is strong, and if I speak of judgment, who will give me an appointment, basically, That's not what it's saying, okay. Verse 20, significant difference, possibly a big one. For though I should seem, and the footnote here reads, for though I should be righteous. So it could be the similitude of righteousness, or it could be an actual fact being righteous, versus if I justify myself. So we see one on the defensive, he's justifying himself, versus though I should appear righteous, or perhaps even being righteous, he's a Zadik, right? And though I should seem blameless, so that's what I spoke about this in another video. I said when the Elohim of Israel says, be thou perfect as I am perfect, he's actually saying, be thou blameless as I am blameless, or be thou complete as I am complete. So Job is expressing, though I should seem blameless, I should be proved perverse, versus if I say I am perfect or complete, he's saying, though I were perfect. So he's saying, though I am. So the reason I make this a big difference potentially is because in our modern understanding of this word, people think this means flawless and without sin and has never made a mistake in his life. No, that's not what it's talking about. Blameless. Actually, verse 20. it's a little more blatant in verse 20. I am perfect. So if you take out these added words in the italics, if I justify myself, mine own mouth shall condemn me. I perfect. But to make sense of it, they inserted, if I say I am perfect, it shall also prove me perverse. So that's why I say this is potentially a big difference. 21, huge difference. For even if I have sinned, I know it not in my soul. So Job is open to the possibility, okay, I don't know what my sin is. I feel like I'm righteous and blameless, but even if there's a slim possibility that I did in fact sin, I don't know it in my soul. I really have done soul searching. I don't know where I've gone wrong. So show me my sin. So even if I have sinned, he's open to that possibility, versus though I were perfect. So he's saying, even if I'm perfect, he's stressing it again. And then it goes on to say, but my life is taken away. It's not something under his control. His life, his health is deteriorating. Just his livelihood, his children, his reputation, it's all being taken away. Versus I would despise my life. So again, continuing this erroneous, wrong, let's just put it there, wrong idea that Job was suicidal and he hated his life. I think there's a little bit of an element to that, but it's not as strong as the Masoretic makes it seem. It's more subtle in the Septuagint. If you've been following along with my coverage of this book since the first chapter, you can get that vibe, that sense of, Job simply dealing with the situation, coming to grips with it, accepting it, versus becoming bitter and hating, just being a hateful person, despising his life and wanting to commit suicide. That's not the truth. Okay. Verse 21. Okay, I said this already. So the Hebrew for this is ma'ak, to spurn or to disappear. So I would spurn or disappear my life. So I would hate my life, or I would end my life, perhaps. I don't know, disappear my life, have it taken away. I would do it myself. He's not saying anyone else is doing it. He's saying I would take it in my own hands. This is what I would do. Verse 22, big difference, possibly a huge one. It says, wrath slays the great and mighty man. Okay, let's look at the Masoretic. He destroys the perfect and the wicked. Okay, why is this a huge difference? Because as we read in the account of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham asked Elohim, will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? Answer, Masoretic, yes, I do, which is doctrinally wrong. It's just a mischaracterization of who the Elohim of Israel is. That's not the way he operates. He doesn't destroy the perfect or the righteous or the complete with those who are wicked. That is perverse judgment. Let's just call it out. Rightfully, the Septuagint says wrath. We don't know whose wrath that is, but it says wrath slays the great and mighty man. So we're not sure whose wrath this is. Could be Elohim's. It could just be wrath in general. When someone's wrathful and he's describing the state of wrathfulness or state of wrath, what it's like. It kills the great and the mighty man. Okay, so there's no mention of righteous people. It's just those who are of great reputation and who are strong. They are killed by wrath. Maybe it's their own wrath or other people's wrath, but it's not something, wrath burns like fire, it seems. Consumes others and perhaps even consumes the one who's wrathful. Verse 23, he for the worthless die. Versus if the scourge slay suddenly. So the scourge is could be a pestilence, could be a disease. It says lash. But the worthless, he's saying those who are of no reputation or deemed as worthless in society, they die. Okay, but the righteous are laughed to scorn. That's true. The righteous people are laughed, they're mocked, they're derided for being goody two shoes, or those who are evil, they are made to feel guilty because of the righteous, and they laugh in their face because they're saying, I don't have to live righteous like you and live with a moral code. I can just do whatever I want, and I'm going to prosper and be rich. That's what we see a lot in this life. Not understanding their end actually is worse, as Proverbs will tell us later in this series. But the righteous are laughed to scorn, versus he will laugh. Who's he? He will laugh at the trial of the innocent. I don't know what that noise is.
Something went wrong. Please try again.
That is, let me just address that. Okay, pardon the interruption. So, as I was saying, but the righteous are laughed to scorn, versus he will laugh at the trial of the innocent. Okay, who's laughing? It's the scourge. He destroys the perfect and the wicked. It sounds like he's referring to Elohim, which is a very bad it's a mischaracterization of who he is. He is not laughing at the innocent. That is satanic. It's demonic. He wouldn't do that. But it does make sense for the wicked to laugh at the righteous, the scorner to laugh at them. That's not who Elohim is, so I'm not sure if that's saying this is a reference to Elohim. Seems like it in the Masoretic. It says he destroys the perfect and the wicked, and if the scourge of the disease slay suddenly, he, talking about Elohim, will laugh at the trial of the innocent. That is it's a mischaracterization of Job and Elohim, so you'll see this throughout the book. And I'm going to say that's a big difference. Let's put that there, because Elohim does not mock the innocent. Let's put that as a huge difference potentially. So is that referring to Elohim? I'm not sure, but that deserves more investigation. Okay, for they are delivered into the hands of the unrighteous man, the innocent, versus the earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, they, talking about the righteous, are delivered into the hands of the unrighteous man. That has happened many times, and it continues to happen. Versus the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. No, that goes against what Mashiach Yeshua said, that the meek will inherit the earth. So I'm not sure where this is going, but this is wrong. But if it be not he, who is it? Talking about Elohim, perhaps. Or the unrighteous man, I'm not sure who it's referring to. Versus, if not, where? And who is he? Okay, makes less sense in the Masoretic. Verse 25, my life is swifter versus my days. Okay. Have fled away. Footnote reads insensibly versus they flee away. Big difference. It says they knew it not. They knew it not. So unaware that my life has passed so quickly versus they see no good. My life has been no good, has seen no good, rather. Okay, very cynical way to see life. The other one is more realistic. A lot of people have said, as they grow older, I remember what it's like, just 10 years ago. It seemed like yesterday, but now, the older you get, the more you learn that time goes by quicker. It's so fleeting. Verse 26, or again, Is there a trace of their path left by ships? So do ships leave a path? Yeah, there's ripples, right? Versus they are passed away as the swift ships. It says leaving no trace versus the swift fleeting of life. This is verse 26. Verse 27, I will forget to speak. I will forget to speak versus I will forget my complaint. So continuing this other thread that Job is a man full of complaints versus no, he just wants to speak. If I forget to speak versus I will forget my complaint. I will bow down my face and groan versus I will leave off my heaviness and comfort myself. Okay, he's comforting himself and he's also letting go of his heaviness, just leaving it off. Doesn't make as much sense in all honesty. I quake in all my limbs, so he's shaking. I am afraid of all my sorrows. Okay, fearful of his sadness, of what he's been put through. I know that thou wilt not leave me alone as innocent. Versus I know that thou wilt not hold me innocent. So leave me alone, basically is saying in the Septuagint, you will not leave me alone as if I am innocent. He's going to continue to suffer more things versus judge me to be innocent. So he's saying, you will not judge me to be innocent. One is transitory because he's going through a trial and he's not sure, what's going to happen. He's in the middle of it versus finality. You are innocent or you're guilty. It's final, a verdict. Verse 29, big difference, possibly a huge one. But since I am godly, why have I not died? Since I am ungodly, why have I not died? Versus, if I be wicked, why then labor I in vain? So, basically, in other words, the Septuagint is saying, what is the reason for me to remain alive despite my pain? Versus, why am I working? Job is not working. Perhaps he's not able to. His wife was the one working, so it doesn't make sense. In the Masoretic, what does he work? He's not working. He's not been working. His wife is now the breadwinner. But he's asking in the Septuagint, why am I still alive despite all the pain I'm going through? I should be dead by now, is what he's saying. All right, and he's admitting, since I am ungodly, he's not saying he's blameless. He's kind of changing his perspective on himself, his self-image. Verse 30, and purge myself with pure hands, versus, and make my hands never so clean. 31, thou hadst, footnote in the Greek reads hast, implying this already happened, versus this has yet to happen. Thou hast thoroughly plunged me in filth. Okay, already done. Versus yet shalt thou plunge me in the ditch. So not thoroughly plunged me in filth. Filth is a more suitable contrast to being that's the next part. Thoroughly plunged me in filth. Okay, filth is a more suitable contrast to being pure and clean rather than just saying a ditch. Plunge me in the ditch. No. Purity, cleanliness, and filth versus clean versus ditch. Ditches doesn't mean it's dirty by default. Yet shalt thou plunge me in the ditch. Verse 32, for thou with whom I could contend. With whom I could contend. Versus as I am, that I should answer him. Verse 33, would that he, our mediator, were present, and a reprover, versus neither is there any daysman betwixt us. So one of the undercurrent themes of Job is the need and longing for a mediator. You could say an advocate. The big difference here, a huge difference, it says in this same verse, and one who should hear the cause between both Job and Elohim, versus that might lay his hand upon us both. Verse 35, for I am not thus conscious of guilt. Okay, why is that a big difference? I have to answer this. So one is laying his hand on Elohim and Job, so they're both being, thrown in prison. I'm not sure exactly, but when someone lays their hands on you, that's trouble. Doesn't mean you're both guilty or both innocent, but you're being taken care of. I don't know whether maybe they're both guilty in the Masoretic. He wants a daysman to lay hands on both of them, on Job and Elohim. That is twisted. I don't think that's not what he's saying. The Septuagint, he's asking for a mediator, perhaps even a judge, but somebody like an advocate who would listen, hear the cause between both of them. Because they're in court, Job feels like he's the defendant and Elohim is the prosecutor. So he's saying if there could only be a judge between us, maybe even an advocate at the very least. So that makes more sense. He's trying to make sense. He's trying to make sense of the situation that is so perplexing to him. That's the common thread in the Septuagint. Verse 35, for I am not thus conscious of guilt. Verses, but it is not so with me. So Job saying in the Septuagint, I am unaware of what I am guilty of. He's still clueless. What have I done? He's asking, but getting no answer. Verses, but what I have described is not my present reality. So then what I speak and not fear him, but it is not so with me. What I just said, that's not what I'm going through right now. So it makes less sense, and there's a denial of reality as well in the Masoretic. So I can discredit the Masoretic text all day long just because it doesn't make sense. Okay, it's a nonsensical text, especially in this chapter. It's just a lot of contradictions. There's a lot of it's just a mischaracterization of Job and Elohim. Whereas in the Septuagint we see uniformity, we see logic, we see that Job and Elohim of Israel are represented correctly based on who we know them to be. Job, an upright man, blameless, going through a perplexing situation, does not know what he did because he didn't do anything to deserve it. That's the truth. But he's suffering without a cause. And Elohim, he isn't really, we haven't heard his answer yet, so I can't really say anything about that. That's coming up later. Okay, so that's all for this chapter. It's a lot to cover, so thank you very much if you've watched until this point. Thank you for your time. Until next time, we'll look at Job chapter 10. Until then, I bid you all shalom aleichem, assalamu alaikum, irini mazisu, pax vobiscum. Peace be unto you, and Maranatha.